coffee housing.
Yes, you must miss some of that. I mean, not all of those interactions are totally lame.
Not all of them, but with regards to collaborating with my coworkers, which is a very important part of the job that I do, that's still an availability. And in fact, I've become closer to some of my coworkers since the pandemic, primarily because we were working remotely, and it made the reality of having to reach out and make it intentional a requirement of my job.
Alexis works at a Minnesota government agency. We were agreed to withhold her full name and job position, given her concern that speaking out might have some kind of negative consequences in the workplace. Alexis, thank you for the time.
Thank you, David.
But for bosses wrestling with when to bring the troops back in, I also talked today to a consultant who works with senior executives and boards to help them navigate this fraught process. You can stream that conversation from marketplace.org if you miss the companion conversation on the air today. I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Law Firm.
I'm Wayne Hogan. It's the #1 killer of teens. One text or call can wreck it all. Let's put an end to distracted driving.
Learn more at waynehogan.law.
Baptist Health is a proud sponsor of First Coast Connect with Melissa Ross. Tune in to WJCT News 89.9 Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. and 8 p.m.
North Florida TPO, proud sponsor of WJCT's First Coast Connect, bringing to the community innovation in transportation planning, commuter services, clean fuels, and intelligent transportation systems. More at northfloridatpo.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
If he builds it, will they come? I'm Melissa Ross, and just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, the latest on Jaguars owner Shad Khan's ambitious plans to build a Four Seasons hotel in downtown Jacksonville. That's just ahead, then later.
Filed a civil rights complaint with the United States Department of Education due to my student, as well as thousands of other students throughout the state of Florida, which are unable to receive their services, which are federally mandated to them.
St. Johns County parents file a federal complaint over the school district's refusal to implement a mask mandate for students. And some positive news and notes for your week in our What's Good Wednesdays. That and more, all ahead. After the day's news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. California voters have elected to keep Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom in office. He defeated a recall election yesterday by a nearly 2-to-1 vote. Republican activists wanted to unseat him for his actions dealing with the pandemic. The National Weather Service has posted flood watches from eastern Texas to the Florida Panhandle. What's left of Hurricane Nicholas is creeping east across the Gulf Coast. Meteorologist Tim Erickson says strong winds are not the problem anymore. It's the flooding threat from heavy rain.
The biggest thing we're trying to focus on now and get people to understand is the flooding rainfall that we're starting to receive, and getting some flood reports here and there, but most of this is going to last through the next possibly two, maybe even into a third day or so.
Much of the flooding threat is also in areas recently devastated by Hurricane Ida. The Biden administration is taking emergency action to try to stop a new Texas law that bans most abortions in that state. In a new filing, the Justice Department is asking a federal judge for a restraining order to temporarily block the law while a larger legal challenge plays out. NPR's Sarah McCammon has more.
The latest action by the Justice Department comes days after the DOJ sued the state of Texas over the law known as SB 8. It allows individuals to file lawsuits worth tens of thousands of dollars against anyone involved in helping a patient get an abortion after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. In a new emergency motion, the department says that the clear purpose of the law is to, quote, deny women rights guaranteed to them by the U.S. Constitution while attempting to evade judicial review. The U.S. Supreme Court allowed it to take effect on September 1st, despite legal challenges from reproductive rights groups, but did not weigh in on the constitutional issues raised by the law. The case is likely to end up before the Supreme Court again. Sarah McCammon, NPR News, Washington.
A judge in Minnesota has blocked a landmark ballot initiative intended to defund the Minneapolis Police Department. NPR's Martin Costi has more.
After the 2020 murder of George Floyd and subsequent protests, Minneapolis was set to vote on a ballot initiative to shutter the police department and replace it with a Department of Public Safety. Don Samuels is a former city council member who sued because he thinks voters would not know what they're voting for.
They don't realize that under the new plan, there will be no chief of police. There will be no designated funding for the department. We don't know how many police officers we will have. Under the new plan, there is no plan.
Judge Jamie Anderson appeared to agree, striking down the current ballot language even as the ballots are currently being printed. Supporters could still try to save the initiative with an emergency appeal to the state Supreme Court. Martin Costi, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR News.
The time is now 4 minutes after 9. This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. I'm Michelle Corum. The Jacksonville City Council members gave a preliminary nod to the mayor's proposed city budget meeting last night. They have 2 more weeks to propose any amendments before a vote on the budget at the end of the month. The fire department is set to get the biggest boost. And Council also approved a nearly $27 million public investment into the renovation of historic buildings known as the Laura Street Trio, including an extra $2 million forgivable loan to pay off debts. Council also voted to allocate an additional $31 million of federal COVID relief dollars toward emergency rental assistance to help people stay in their homes. Last week, an industry group representing Florida realtors dropped their campaign to add to the 2022 ballot a constitutional amendment on affordable housing. Instead, they want to work with lawmakers on creating more opportunities for affordable housing. Yesterday, they hosted by the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, Senator Kathleen Passidomo, agreeing that the state needs to do more.
If we want our state to continue to grow and thrive, then we must ensure there are promising opportunities and a good quality of life for the people of Florida. We must ensure housing in Florida is available and affordable so that our workforce and our families have a safe place to live.
And right now, 79 degrees and clear here in Jacksonville.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Dataiku, an artificial intelligence platform committed to bringing data-driven decision-making to every industry, every business challenge, and every team. Learn more at dataiku.com. And the Annie E. Casey Foundation.
If he builds it, will you come? Good morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect. Thanks for listening. Just ahead this morning, the latest on Jaguars owner Shad Khan's ambitious plans for a Four Seasons hotel in the sports complex and some other stuff. Already getting lots of tweets about this hot topic, and we want your calls too. Give us a call right now, 549-2937. Then later, why St. Johns County parents are filing a federal complaint over their fight for a mask mandate in the district schools. But first this hour, it's a nearly $114 million incentives deal with Jaguars owner Shad Khan for his plan to build a Four Seasons hotel, residences, and an office building at the former Kids Campus site along the downtown riverfront. Khan's plan aims to transform this stretch of the North Bank in downtown Jacksonville along the river. So what's the latest on this? With more, we welcome Mike Mendenhall, staff writer with the Jax Daily Record. Hey, Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
People have strong opinions about this, lots of questions, lots of tweets already, but we want your calls too, folks. Let us know. Should Shad Khan be given money from the city to build a Four Seasons hotel downtown and also put into reality some other improvements around the sports complex? 549-2937. Emails to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax. And our Facebook page is open. So the city council expected to put this deal on the table. Tell us what's the latest, Mike.
Yeah, Melissa. So the bill for this incentives deal was introduced last night, which essentially starts about a 6-week vetting process, including debate from council and public hearings. So really, what the bill would do is it would give, as you said at the top of the show, it's about $114 million incentive package for the Four Seasons Hotel. The largest piece of that is actually a tax rebate. It's a almost $48 million tax rebate. So, and that's not really a cash give so much as it is. It would just Mr. Khan's company would just be refunded any additional or new tax revenue on the property, and the cash actually would come from about $25.8 million completion grant, and that would be paid to Khan's company after the project is complete. And then there's a lot of other things in there that are basically expenses to the city. Part of the project also includes marina improvements for the Metropolitan Park Marina, and that those improvements would be about $3.4 million, and that includes like a marina, essentially building, which would have a dock house, possibly a restaurant. And then the city's also proposing to give Khan's company the land where the Four Seasons Hotel will be built, and that's been valued at about $12.5 million. And then they also have to relocate the Marine Fire Station and as well as the Historic Fire Museum down there as well. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of expense to the city.
Sure. And of course, that's what leads to the controversy. The Lot J deal that the Jaguars tried to do went down to defeat. There was really a taxpayer revolt against that. People did not like that deal, and they let their representatives know it. Now the Jaguars have come back to the table with another package that seems to be more palatable both to the city council and to the public. And so it is expected the city council will pass this through. But are there any pitfalls along the way we might anticipate, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, this deal is much more traditional, a traditional incentive package from the city. These kind of things, completion grants, the REV grant, which is the tax rebate, those kind of things happen on most development projects that involve the Downtown Investment Authority. But the hurdle that I think you might be referring to is the replacement for Kids Campus. So the portion of the shipyards where Shad Khan wants to build the Four Seasons is the former Kids Campus Park, and there is currently an outstanding grant. It's decades old from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. It was initially given to the city to maintain river access for both that park as well as the marina. So what the Downtown Investment Authority is trying to do is they're trying to convince the state to allow them to give a replacement park, essentially. And the city has been kind of supporting the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund's recent push for a Riverfront Parks master plan, a parks master plan for downtown, which would include kind of shifting that parkland and developing a new park further to the west of the shipyards. But the other caveat is that grant actually compounds over time. So if the state were to say no, that replacement plan is not going to work, then they would actually owe, according to the DIA, about $21 million, which could be problematic because it would either add to the incentives deal or Shad Khan's company would have to pay that.
We'll go to your calls in a moment, 549-2937. Now, Mike, the Jaguars believe the luxury market for a Four Seasons can attract enough people to make this hotel, this complex, profitable. There is some skepticism about that, given that occupancy rates, even for middle-of-the-road hotels downtown, have struggled sometimes. So how are they going to bring this off? I mean, the average person will not be able to afford to stay in the Four Seasons.
No, and I think that's what honestly that Shad Khan's companies are kind of counting on in a way. Like, I think they're hoping that they'll get a lot of patronage from the proposed restaurant and the spa that are going to be in the Four Seasons. But you're right, the room rates are going to be much higher than your typical hotel, and that market of whether it be business travelers or leisure travelers that aren't price sensitive, it's really what they're hoping to target. When this deal did go before the Downtown Investment Authority for vetting before it was sent to the City Council, it got the DIA's approval. There was a market study that was done. It was commissioned by the Jaguars by a pretty well known real estate firm, CBRE. And they kind of did an analysis of specifically the downtown market. So they didn't include, the numbers didn't include necessarily the higher end hotels in Nassau County or in St. Johns County, Ponte Vedra. So, but their study showed that the occupancy by 2029 in the hotel would be up around 75%. Which was still, but that study was also based on pre-pandemic numbers. So that's where some of the skepticism might come in.
Lots of calls, meanwhile, for Mike Mendenhall of the Jax Daily Record. What are your thoughts about this more than $100 million incentives deal for Shad Khan, Jaguars owner Mr. Khan, to build a Four Seasons hotel downtown and some other new construction and attractions on the north bank of the St. Johns River? The City Council has introduced this. It is likely to be approved. What do you think, folks? 549-2937. Rusty on the west side. Hi, Rusty. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. All of a sudden, relativism is in play here, and all of a sudden, $114 million doesn't seem terrible if you add up all the taxpayer dollars dumped into real estate incentives over the decades, all the pretty renderings, which came to nothing. Just a reminder.
Yeah, there have been a lot of renderings that never. You are so right, Rusty. We even jokingly told the Cummer Museum we should put up an exhibit of all of the renderings in Jacksonville that never became reality. We had a whole collection of them here at WJCT at one point. So, okay, thanks for that, Rusty. Let me get a few more calls on the air. Mark in Gainesville. Hi, Mark.
Good morning. This wasn't my point, but it's got to make you ponder sometimes why Shad Khan, who could easily afford to write a check for all this, wants to go through all this rigmarole and go to the city council and do all these things. And he could easily write a check. But my point was, has anybody heard? Have they said that they don't want to build a brand new $800 million stadium starting in a year or two? Has that kind of gone by the wayside, or are they just keeping a low profile? And, who's going to pay for that? Where does that tax money come from?
Thank you so much, Mark. Okay, Mike Mendenhall, this is why the Lot J deal went down to defeat. Taxpayers screaming bloody murder, saying, why can't Shad Khan pay for all this himself? That is not how these deals typically work in most NFL cities, whether fans like to acknowledge that or not. Unfortunately, most cities do shell out hefty incentives. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, you see these kind of partnerships in like you said, in a lot of NFL cities. When the Oakland Raiders decided to move to Las Vegas, there was a lot of public money that went into their new stadium in Las Vegas, which I have to look at the numbers, but I know was well over $1 billion. And when the company actually that Jaguars partnered with to do the Lot J deal that failed out of Baltimore, the Cordish companies, they've actually done a lot of these kind of stadium centric developments. One that comes to mind is actually around the Cardinal Stadium in St. Louis, and they do involve a lot of public dollars. So as far as is Jacksonville's hesitancy or kind of or being an outlier there, not sure exactly why, what the difference is, other than then clearly our taxpayers are paying attention. So, but the Lot J deal, like you mentioned, it was a lot different. And one of the biggest differences is too that the Cordish companies declined to provide very specific like pro forma specs to the city council. So the breakdown of what the costs weren't clear. So the city council so Cordish and the Jaguars, couldn't say, look, this is why we need this money. This is why there's a financial gap and why we need the city to help out in the short term to make this profitable for the long term. That's a little different this time because it went through the Downtown Investment Authority, which it requires a very detailed process before they'll improve incentives. You have to show where all of your financial money is coming from. It has to show, the building costs. I mean, that's one of the things that the city council that they ended up doing it at city council, that this deal didn't go through the Downtown Investment Authority.
Jason in San Marco. Hey, Jason.
Good morning, Melissa. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for calling.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you put me on. I've been thinking this is one of the dumbest things in the long history of dumb things that our city's pursued. It's the last time I checked, it's about 4 blocks from the jail, and it's about 8 blocks from Talleyrand. So it's a place where really, in truth, no luxury hotel builder would ever build. So let's just go ahead and say that right up front. I don't know if he's got approval from the Four Seasons, corporation or what, but you would never pick that location if you were looking for great spots to build a Four Seasons in Jacksonville. So that's my first thing to say. And I wanted to say, you talked about all the renderings, and someone over on the JacksonMag.com had a hysterical blog when they suggested that we take the landing and put little 4 and 5 foot mock-ups of all of the buildings that have been proposed in Jacksonville, and we'll call it, the mock-up graveyard. And we'll just put them all around there. And as you described, there's several. We can make a really pretty little display and maybe a little road that goes through, and just put them all out there, nice little ones made of concrete, brick, and stucco, to show all the faded dreams that never came to be. So I hope I've made my point clear. I think this is a dumb idea. We are putting the cart before the horse. This $100 million could be so much better spent repairing all the deferred maintenance and all the older buildings that are sitting around downtown waiting to be restored for normal citizens of Jacksonville. The Four Seasons is a horrible idea. And thank you again. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jason. Lots of emails and tweets. Here's an email from Martina. I'd urge everyone to look at a website called Field of Schemes. It gives you a rundown on how sports team owners leverage political connections to get money from public coffers. Lots of tweets. $120 million for a practice facility the team doesn't even need, says Benjamin. A tweet from Mark. It's a boondoggle, only useful as a bribe to keep the Jaguars. Here's another tweet. I don't think there's enough downtown to attract people to stay. People go to the Ritz on Amelia Island because it's at the beach. And many, many more coming in from the listeners. Mike Mendenhall on Facebook. Tracy writes, did the Omni Hotel get this deal? Won't they put some pushback to the city? Okay, there's a lot of cynicism. There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of anger about taxpayer money going to this deal. But all of that said, Mike Mendenhall, the other side of the argument is if it's a huge success and it really revitalizes this part of the city, and it brings more foot traffic into downtown, more economic development, it will be seen as a gamble that paid off.
Yeah, I mean, every time that there is a development that proposed on the shipyard's property, I think that city officials, will come out and say that this could be a catalyst for development for the city. That's kind of the term that's been coined for that. And I think that there is something to be said about attracting or having some type of a signature development in downtown. And I think that Shad Khan is the argument is that he wouldn't be investing that kind of money if he didn't think it could be successful. Shad Khan, one of the reasons why he's chosen Four Seasons is because he does own the Four Seasons Hotel in Toronto. And to your previous caller's question, when this project was going through the Downtown Investment Authority process, the Jaguars president Mark Lamping told the DIA that they didn't they expected a 10-year commitment from the Four Seasons brand that hadn't been finalized yet that we know of. They're not a publicly traded company, so sometimes those deals are, you don't know about them until they're announced or until they're leaked. But they seem pretty confident that it's going to be a Four Seasons. Now there is a little component in the deal that it says that it needs to be a Four Seasons from the outset, but it could, if the flag decides to pull out after their initial contract, they could actually have a different 5-star hotel brand or even a 4-star hotel brand there. So, if this deal goes through, it's more than likely going to be a Four Seasons from the outset, but there is a little bit of wiggle room for the future.
Rusty, another Rusty on the line at the beaches. Hello, Rusty.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry about the last one. I lived in Orlando for 35 years, worked in the hospitality and transportation industry there, and I understand why Orlando has so many hotels. We moved literally millions of people on a regular basis. You come to Jacksonville, and unless the Jags are playing or there's a good concert, there isn't anything to draw you to Jacksonville. There isn't a regular venue of entertainment where people would come on a regular basis to see shows and participate. And as far as high-end clientele, for someone like the Four Seasons, we don't have that clientele here. If we did, what's going to draw them downtown to begin with? You don't have a regular form of entertainment.
Well, there is Daly's Place. I mean, there is the Daly's Place concert venue across the street now.
Well, they need a full venue then. They need a full schedule. You can't have one show a month and expect to support a hotel like they're talking about. I do not see any benefit from this hotel whatsoever. If we generate something that draws the people in, and then we have occupancy issues downtown or surrounding downtown with hotels not being able to handle the people, that's when we talk about putting $100 million or more into other hotels to accommodate those people, not a small niche hotel, which might have 200 rooms if it has that. How does that benefit this community? It's a niche product. This is not a niche community.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Rusty.
Large district community. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know what, Mike? We're just getting so much feedback from everyone saying much the same. Here's a tweet from a listener. I'd like my garbage picked up when it's supposed to be, not 3 days later. I'd like the pothole in front of my house that's been there for 5 years filled. I'd like the poor guy sleeping up on the Arlington Expressway service road to get a place to live and food to eat. These are the same arguments taxpayers made when they pressured the city council to shoot down the previous Lot J Jaguars deal, saying that the council's priorities were out of whack, that they needed to focus on bread and butter issues before taking a flyer on a really expensive proposition, getting into business with this NFL franchise. So this is a big gamble. What's the argument the team is making that they can attract the kind of well-moneyed, well-heeled clientele that are going to fill up this hotel? Because, of course, a lot of people will visit the hotel for the spa, the restaurant, and such. They won't necessarily be staying in a room. But to be profitable, you need heads in beds.
Yeah, I mean, one of the arguments that they're making is that whenever there's an NFL game, it does attract higher end business folk. I mean, there's going to be 176 rooms, roughly in this hotel, and so they're saying, during the NFL games, they'll be able to fill those rooms with some of their higher profile, guests. Of course, that's just a short amount of time in the year. One of the things they said was business travel that actually it's not cost effective, or that's not cost prohibitive. So somebody that doesn't really care what they spend on money for a hotel room. We'll have to see, post pandemic, if that continues to play out, or if business travel picks back up. So that's part of it. That's part of the argument. So there, I think there are still some questions as to whether or not, post pandemic the hotel, will be able to reach occupancy. But I think, one of the things that the Jaguars are really stressing is that, right now, like there are some businesses such as Intuition and Manifest that are over in the sports and entertainment district. You've got a few other bars, and there's some more other development going on over there. But their argument is the Jaguars, I don't think they want to be an island amongst themselves at the stadium. They really want to build up that area to, create more energy year round. Mm-hmm. And even though Lot J failed, that doesn't mean that the Jaguars have pulled away from doing some type of an entertainment or multi-use development. I could definitely see the Jaguars coming back around with not necessarily the same Lot J plan, but with another proposal to drive that energy, that year-round energy that the caller was really speaking to.
Right. And, let's talk about the wins that have occurred. Daly's Place is pretty successful. And so I think we'll have to see how this shakes out. But in the meantime, take us through the process, how City Council will move this proposal through in the next weeks.
Yeah, so it had what's called its first reading last night. And then after it has a second reading, it'll eventually go to city council committees. The finance committee will be a key one in this, because that they vet the purse. They vet any the expenses of city council. And then if it does pass there, the bill could theoretically pass by the end of October. But it depends. There could be, your city council members could want changes or amendments to the bill that could delay it. It could be deferred. But if the council members are comfortable with the deal, it could pass by the end of October.
Mike Mendenhall, staff writer at the Jax Daily Record. Thanks so much.
Melissa, thanks for having me.
Much more still ahead. Later, some positive news and notes for your midweek. It's our What's Good Wednesdays. But up next.
Filed a civil rights complaint with the United States Department of Education due to my student, as well as thousands of other students throughout the state of Florida, which are unable to receive their services, which are federally mandated to them.
St. Johns County parents turned to the feds to try to get the school district to implement a school mask mandate. That's next. Well, 13 Florida school districts have now mandated masks for students, including Duval County in our area. They're defying Governor Ron DeSantis to do this, citing the overwhelming scientific evidence showing masks limit the spread of COVID-19. However, St. Johns County Schools remains unmasked, at least for students, and a growing number of concerned parents there are fighting back, making a federal complaint. I spoke with two St. John's parents with kids in the school district who are part of a group taking legal action. They are Gus Leathers and attorney Angelique Kelly. She has filed a complaint with the Department of Education. Here's that conversation. Angelique, Gus, it's good to talk to both of you. Angelique, let's begin with you. You're not just a parent in St. Johns County, you're also an attorney. You filed a civil rights violation complaint over this issue with the U.S. Department of Education. Tell us about it.
Filed a civil rights complaint with the United States Department of Education due to my student, as well as thousands of other students throughout the state of Florida, which are unable to receive their services, which are federally mandated to them because of COVID-19, because there are no mask mandates. Children 12 and under or actually under 12, have no protection in our public school system. And masks are the way to go in that particular instance, because they're staying at home and they're quarantining over and over and over again. They're unable to go ahead and receive their services, which they desperately need.
Tell us more about your family's situation that led you to take this action.
Well, my child has an IEP. He receives special services through the school due to a learning disability. We've had to quarantine. It's September. We've already had to quarantine once. We weren't noticed by the school. We were noticed by an underground Facebook group of students and parents in our elementary school, letting us know that children in our classroom did test positive. The Department of Health didn't contact trace appropriately and in time. So we had to take matters into our own hands and ended up having to do homeschool during a quarantine period until they could do the mandated or the contact tracing.
Gus, you also have multiple kids in the St. John's school system. You are part of a group of concerned parents who have been pleading with the St. John's County School Board to implement a mask mandate, which surrounding counties have done. Tell us what brought you to this fight.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, so I am part of a group. Angelique's part of that same group, and we're just trying to get the masks back in school because it was so effective last year, and you can tell by looking at our infection rate and our quarantine rate year over year. We have empirical evidence that proves that the masks were effective. That is the one thing that isn't in place from last year. Now, last year we didn't have this situation where they were potentially talking about schools closing or anything like that. This year we are in a situation where they're talking about schools closing. A week ago, there was a board meeting where we were trying to get just putting masks back in school, putting a mask mandate back in schools onto the board's agenda, just so they could vote on it. And it wouldn't even make it to the agenda. That's how much of resistance we're running into with this. And, you know, it's the science has taken a back seat, and really the only thing that we're really concerned about is the quality of education of our children. I have 3 children in 3 different schools. The day of that meeting, one of my children came home sick. Well, of course, we went and got a at-home test that evening. He was positive for COVID. The next morning, we went out and had a doctor test everybody. We came back with 2 positives, which means that of course, we were already quarantined with 1. However, 3 kids, 3 different schools. In order to report that, we had to email 16 different teachers, 3 different nurses at 3 different schools, as well as like after-school activity teachers as well. So, I mean, you're talking about a huge amount of work on our part. That probably, 50 plus emails. And we had to email all those teachers nearly every day for their assignments.
Right. So how is it sitting with parents in St. John's like you, Gus, when you see that mask mandates have been implemented in 13 other Florida counties, and in defiance of Governor Ron DeSantis, those school districts have decided that this is the best way to protect the safety of students and staff, but not in your county?
It's interesting. I'll actually let Angelique answer that.
Angelique.
I disagree. The St. Johns County School District has an obligation to avoid discrimination on the basis of disability under federal law. They need to cooperate with our health authorities, the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, to ensure that students with disabilities have access to the school's education programs. Federal law mandates that there be a free and appropriate public education available to eligible students with disabilities. Both the CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics have recommended everyone in K through 12 wear masks in the upcoming school year due to so many of these children being ineligible to be vaccinated or to receive other therapies which are permitted for students that are 12 and over. I understand that there is a narrow subset of children and others that may be unable to wear masks, and there should be a medical opt-out, but being a parental opt-out should not be our county or our state's position on how to keep children safe. The CDC has recommended that children do wear masks in school, in class. Children with disabilities go to other classrooms, meet with children outside of their cohorts, and things of that nature. There's no reason that a mask is not permitted in school.
So let me ask you then, where does your complaint go from here?
From here, so the complaint has received a complaint number. We would be receiving a telephone call with someone from the Office of Civil Rights to discuss our complaint. I do understand that the Federal Department of Education has opened an investigation in Florida in another case. That I know of 3 at this present time that have been picked up and filed with OCR. We attempted St. John's Virtual School for half the school year last year. It was a challenge. The services which he should have received during that time, he was unable to. They did not offer them. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. We have a child that needs special education services. We're unable to use St. Johns County Virtual School, the only option in our county for virtual learning, and we're stuck without a mask mandate. Mm-hmm. So at this point in time, we request that the board go ahead and put this on the agenda, and we discuss with medical professionals, not the politics, but what's in the best interest of the children, what's appropriate, and what we should really do to protect our kids.
And Gus Leathers, let's end with you. We've heard a lot from parents in St. John's who find it ironic that the school district that's considered to be among the best in the state isn't following science in making decisions to protect the health and safety of the student body. What say you?
It's baffling. We have this board that is in charge of educating our children, yet they are unwilling to consider the actual data and use some reasoning to determine the best course of action. And instead, it almost seems politically motivated. I mentioned these board meetings earlier where we're trying to get things like a mask mandate put back into school and actually voted on and put on an agenda. However, we have folks showing up at those meetings speaking against masks in schools from outside the county. And it almost seems like their voice is more important than ours. Their actual constituents, and it's just, it's very disheartening. You hear the same arguments over and over again, like the virus is too small, it'll go right through the mask. Just silly arguments that have been proven wrong for like a year and a half now? How deep are we into the pandemic?
Yeah, a year and a half. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us. We'll continue to follow the story in St. Johns County. Parent Gus Leathers and parent and attorney Angelique Kelly. Thanks to you both.
Thank you, Melissa.
Well, flu season is right around the corner, this as the pandemic continues. So the Duval County Medical Society is once again launching Flu Vax Jacks, a community-wide campaign to help get people vaccinated against the flu. Society President Dr. Sunil Joshi is on the line. Hey, Dr. Joshi.
Good morning, Melissa.
Okay, so it's that time of year, flu season coming our way, and you really are trying to get the word out that we need to keep flu patients out of the hospital, particularly since hospitals are so strained with COVID patients, right?
That's right. And so, last year we launched FluVax Jax anticipating that we would have some issues with COVID patients filling our hospitals, and then adding flu patients to that would be disastrous. And at that time, we didn't have a COVID vaccine. So it was critically important for us to get our patients vaccinated against the flu, because we do know that the flu shot does reduce hospitalizations. Maybe not as much as the COVID vaccines do, but they do significantly reduce hospitalizations. And we did very well last year. This year, obviously, in the late summer, we've had issues with hospitalizations with COVID. And so it becomes even more critical for us to have our folks vaccinated against the flu, so that we can keep these folks out of the hospital, this preventable illness out of the hospital, so that those who may have COVID or other respiratory illnesses can have hospital beds.
Now, let me ask you, before we talk about how easy it is to get a flu shot and some free flu clinics that will be happening around town, Dr. Joshi, are we seeing less flu because more people are wearing masks due to the pandemic?
Oh, I believe that. Last year in particular, the number of people who are positive for flu was significantly lower. In fact, we talk about percent positivity all the time with the COVID testing. In a typical flu year, if you look at the people who go to the emergency room and get tested for flu, which is typically over 100 million, a million people who get tested, you have about a 26 to 30% positivity rate for the flu in these people who have flu-like symptoms. Last year, the percent positivity rate was 0.2%. I mean, significantly lower. What were we doing last year that we weren't doing before is these mitigation strategies, wearing masks, socially distancing, not getting together in large groups. People weren't getting together for the holidays, and all of these get-togethers weren't happening. I'm not saying that that's how it needs to be all the time, but that certainly did significantly reduce the number of flu cases last year. Also, keep in mind, flu vaccination rates were up all over the country last year. Here in Northeast Florida, our vaccination rate was up by 30% last year. And so that also played a big role in that.
Okay, with all of that said, you can go get a flu shot anywhere: CVS, Harvey's, Publix, Walgreens, Walmart, Winn-Dixie, any local pharmacy for anyone aged 3 or older if you're insured. If you're uninsured, go to FluVaxJax.com. You can get a voucher for a free vaccine. And Dr. Joshi, Florida Blue is offering free flu shot clinics again this year at a couple of locations this month, next month, and November, correct?
That's right. And so they typically offer them at their outpatient, their off-site locations, like they have the one at the town center and places like that. And when they offer those people, so that's typically for people who have Florida Blue insurance. But if you are uninsured, you can use these vaccine vouchers for getting vaccines at those particular clinics as well, and those would be free. So keep that in mind as well, is that even for the uninsured, you can go to the Florida Blue vaccination clinic sites to get the vaccine for free if you have one of these vouchers.
Right. Go to the town center, the Florida Blue building at the St. John's Town Center, or the Florida Blue office at the Winston YMCA on Riverside Avenue. Duval County Public Schools also offering in-school flu vaccines, and Clay County hoping to do the same, it's my understanding. So lots of opportunities for folks to get their flu shot, Doctor.
Yeah, and the importance of getting it needs to be emphasized here, too, because I know we are focused on the COVID vaccine, and a lot of people do have vaccine fatigue. A lot of the questions that people have related to the COVID vaccines, they should no longer have regarding the flu shot. The flu shot's been around for over 50 years, and hundreds of millions of people have been vaccinated against the flu year in and year out. And we saw what happened last year when vaccination rates went up throughout the country. the cases of flu went down, hospitalizations related to flu went down. In fact, last year throughout the country, the CDC reported only one pediatric death from the flu in the 2020-21 flu season, whereas in a typical year, we're seeing close to 200 pediatric deaths. So there was a dramatic drop in not just illnesses, but tragic outcomes as well.
Do you think that same people that are hesitant to get the COVID vaccine also are hesitant to get a flu shot?
100%. There's no doubt about it. So what I see in my office is as we're talking about getting the COVID vaccine, I'll always throw in, well, please make sure you get your flu shot. And the same people who are asking me questions and are very worried about getting the COVID vaccine haven't had their flu shot in the last 10 years either. And so, again, this is an opportunity for us, since we are talking so much about the COVID vaccine, to educate the public about the safety of vaccines in general and how much they can reduce illness, keep people out of the hospital, but also prevent some of the long-term morbidity that's associated with some of these viral illnesses, whether it's the flu or COVID or whatever.
Here's a tweet from Tony Woods with Florida Blue. Please let folks know anyone can get a flu shot at a Florida Blue center with insurance or without insurance. Thanks for that, Tony. And go to fluvaxjax.com for more about the citywide Flu Vax campaign. Dr. Sunil Joshi, Duval County Medical Society, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Melissa.
All right, in a moment. It's been a rough year and a half. That's why every week on the show, we try to do a little good news. That's coming up in just a few minutes, our What's Good Wednesdays, to bring you a little bit of a smile in the middle of the week. Don't go away. You're listening to First Coast Connect on 89.9. We'll be right back.
Join us for a virtual screening and panel discussion about the new film Muhammad Ali by Ken Burns, Sarah Burns, and David McMahon. Wednesday, September 15th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Explore the interwoven nature of race and religion in Muhammad Ali's own life and its impact on sports, society, and culture today. This virtual event is free, but registration is required. Visit wjct.org/events.
WJCT Public Media is bringing you a new healthcare show, What's Health Got to Do With It? Our goal is to help you navigate all things health and healthcare and get you the answers you deserve. Join me, Dr. Joe Servin, Saturdays at 4 p.m. and Sundays at 9 p.m. on WJCT News 89.9. Sponsored in part by American Brain Foundation, Epilepsy Foundation, and Norellis.
Lee & Kate's Glass, family owned and operated for 95 years. Lee & Kate's Glass is your source for upgrading your home's glass, from shower doors and mirrors to windows and tabletops. Learn more at leeandkatesglass.com. Congaree & Penn, dedicated to agriculture and culinary endeavors, offering field-to-fork dining and outdoor experiences on over 300 acres. Sip, dine, explore. Information at congareeandpenn.com. Announcing Vickers Landing at Oak Bridge, bridging retirees with an all-new Ponte Vedra Beach community, featuring new homes, a resort lifestyle, and a life plan for every stage of aging. Information at vickerslanding.com.
WJCT Public Media and the Florida Theater present Spyro Gyra, performing live at the WJCT Soundstage on Thursday, September 30th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Visit jacksmusic.org/events for tickets.
On the next Fresh Air, Colson Whitehead, who won Pulitzer Prizes for his last two novels, The Nickel Boys and The Underground Railroad, which was adapted into an Amazon TV series. Whitehead's new novel, Harlem Shuffle, is a crime novel set in the early 60s about small-time and big-time crooks and about race and class. Join us
today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
Democrats want to tax big corporations and the wealthy to fund the president's $3.5 trillion rebuilding plan. Standing in their way, the GOP.
Republicans are going to fight these terrible, painful policies tooth and nail.
and themselves.
He will not have my vote on 3.5, and Chuck knows that.
The planned changes to the tax code are big. How might they impact you? That's next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, the pandemic has brought renewed interest from anxious and stressed out Americans into exploring an ancient remedy, acupuncture. For more, I spoke with Dr. Julie Miller, founder at Health Point Acupuncture and Wellness.
Our mission is to provide solutions for chronic conditions, chronic pain, and infertility. With the pandemic, we have seen an inundation of increased chronic pain, increased chronic anxiety, insomnia, and depression, as well as trying to keep our patients healthy and keeping their immune systems boosted by using our treatment solutions of acupuncture, herbal prescription formulas, as well as homeopathic trigger point injections.
You're also treating kids who have pediatric anxiety. Tell me about that.
We sure do.
Tell me about
We
that.
sure do. Children respond really well to acupuncture. We do have some non-needle methods that we employ with some pediatric patients, but they respond very well to the acupuncture needle treatments as well. We have seen many children in the recent couple of years with increased migraines, anxiety, as well as insomnia.
Now, acupuncture is one of the only alternative or holistic treatments that has clinical data to show its effectiveness. It's backed up by a lot of research. Can you talk about that?
There are thousands of studies that show the efficacy rates of acupuncture, resulting in reduced symptomology, reducing pain for the long term. And there are over 50 conditions that the National Institutions of Health back up the treatment for acupuncture. They condone the use for.
Now, you're celebrating 13 years in business this month, and you're honoring a great local nonprofit, Rethreaded. So patients
sure
are going to
are.
get a special gift this month. Is that right?
We sure are. So with Rethreaded, next week we are going to give every single patient who comes in the door, we're going to give them a gift that we have purchased from Rethreaded, thereby supporting Rethreaded. Each patient's going to be getting one of their scarves that is their primary thing that they make, as well as there's a dog toy, as well as a cooking herb solution that they've given us for, I think it's a meat rub. So we have supported them by giving that to all of our patients.
I'm going to be visiting myself. I look forward to it. Dr.
Yes.
Julie Miller, founder at Health Point Acupuncture and Wellness. Thanks so much.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
And here's some more good news for your week. The Museum of Science and History, the MOSH, is opening its newest exhibition, Da Vinci, Machines and Robotics. Come check it out beginning this Saturday. This exhibit is produced by Artisans of Florence and celebrates the iconic Da Vinci. It's actually on loan from the Da Vinci Museum in Florence, Italy. Dozens of creations are on display, including machines and reproductions of Leonardo's greatest paintings. It will be up at the MOSH through January. You can also get a sneak peek of the exhibit at the Museum by Moonlight fundraising event this Friday night, part of the MOSH's 80th anniversary celebrations. Well, Hispanic Heritage Month is kicking off with flair on Amelia Island. The Amelia Island Museum of History is hosting the third annual Fiesta de Santa Maria this weekend to celebrate the island's Hispanic roots with music, entertainment, and food. They'll also present a one-of-a-kind Cuba art exhibit from Baracoa, Cuba's oldest city, which is actually connected historically to Fernandina Beach. The fun begins Friday with a lecture on the Fernandina-Cuba connection by Dr. Berta Isabel Arias. I spoke with her.
And that will be followed by something that really has never been done before. We have actually an art exhibit from Cuban artists in the first city of Cuba that is on the eastern province, actually about 5 hours from Guantanamo. And it's called Baracoa. And we have managed to get over the last many months, about 9 months now, we've managed to get high-resolution photographs of original works from these artists. And we'll be having them on display starting on Friday at 7 o'clock and then running through November 30th.
Nice. Now, there's a connection you mentioned between Cuba and Fernandina Beach, correct?
Yes, there is. I mean, Fernandina actually was where the Cuban hero Jose Marti stayed between 1893 and 1895, as he planned what he hoped would be the final straw in the fight against the Spaniards for Cuban independence. And it was called the Fernandina Plan. He stayed at the Florida House Inn for about 2 years planning all this with a local lumber magnate, Nathaniel Borden. And so we have a really close history with that city.
Check it all out at ameliamuseum.org. And get out this Saturday for the Walk and Roll to Cure FSHD, featuring National Ambassador Max Adler. The Walk and Roll is part of a national effort led by volunteers across the U.S. and Canada who have been impacted by muscular dystrophy. They'll all get together September 18th at the zoo to walk and roll and raise funds for a cure. Check it out at fshdsociety.org/walkroll. And finally, this Saturday night here at WJCT Studios, Jacksonville's celebrity photographer Renee Parenta will compete with professional dancer Sean Anthony in the First Coast Dancing with the Stars, benefiting Beaches Fine Arts. You can vote for Team Renee and Sean through their private link at First Coast DWTS or at Team Sean Renee on Facebook. Every dollar is a vote to help them win the coveted Mirror Ball Trophy and support Beaches Fine Arts, free concerts, and award-winning educational outreach programs. And if you've got some good news to add to our weekly Wednesday menu, drop us a line. And thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks also to senior producer Heather Schatz, director Josh Torres, associate producer Catherine Hobbs. Our editorial director is Jessica Palumbo. And I'm Melissa Ross. This is First Coast Connect on 89.9. We'll be right back here again, everyone, at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Be safe out there. Have a great Wednesday.
Support for First Coast Connect is